Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Ashford Tower penthouse. 30 stories above Manhattan, Celeste Monroe stared at her reflection in the glass, a ghost against the storm-dark afternoon. 53 days. That's how long she had been Mrs. Dominic Ashford. Her fingers touched the platinum band on her left hand. It felt like a shackle. The 5-carat diamond engagement ring sat buried in her drawer. She had worn it once, on the wedding day, and never again. It felt like wearing a price tag. Because that's what she was. The price her father paid to save Monroe Gallery from collapse. The asset Dominic Ashford acquired to complete his perfect image. The penthouse was all clean lines and expensive neutrals, curated by designers whose names people whispered with reverence. Stunning and soulless, like the man who owned it. Dominic Ashford. Self-made billionaire. Real estate king. Devastatingly handsome in that sharp way that made people straighten their spines. To Celeste, he was simply absent. He left before dawn. She heard his footsteps, the elevator descending, then silence. He returned after midnight, if at all. They had separate bedrooms in the same suite. East wing for her, west wing for him. Planets that never touched. She only saw him at events. Galas, fundraisers, business dinners where she stood beside him in designer gowns his assistant selected. She smiled. Laughed at the right moments. Said nothing of substance. She was decoration, and she played her role because her family's survival depended on it. But she had found refuge. In the building's basement, past the wine cellar and private gym, there was a storage room nobody used. Thomas, the elderly building manager, had shown it to her when he caught her wandering the halls like a sleepwalker. Concrete floors. Exposed pipes. A single dusty bulb. A sink. A door that locked. Celeste had transformed it into her sanctuary. She bought a potter's wheel with her monthly allowance, clay, tools, a small kiln. In that basement room, she was not the beautiful wife of Dominic Ashford. She was simply Celeste, hands covered in earth, creating forms that expressed everything she could not say aloud. Each vessel held her loneliness. Her anger. Her fading hope. The elevator chimed. 4 in the afternoon. Dominic never came home this early. His footsteps were sharp on the Italian marble. Then his voice, clipped and cold. Celeste. We have an event tonight. The Prescott Foundation Gala. Be ready by 7. She turned from the window. He stood in the doorway, charcoal suit, tie loosened. At 36, Dominic had the kind of face cameras loved. All angles and intensity. Dark hair kept ruthlessly short. Gray eyes that assessed everything like a balance sheet. A mouth that never quite smiled. He looked at her the way someone might look at a painting they had purchased, evaluating whether it still held its value. I received the dress, she said quietly. Good. Where the sapphires? His assistant had delivered everything that morning. Dress, shoes, clutch, jewelry. All coordinated. All perfect. He had never asked her opinion. Will this be a long evening? Every evening with Dominic was long. However long it needs to be. The Prescotts are major donors to the Children's Hospital. You will be charming. Of course. Her voice was empty. He looked at her for a moment, and she thought she saw something flicker in his expression. But it was gone before she could name it. 7, he repeated, and disappeared into his wing. Celeste returned to her reflection. Somewhere beneath the surface, she felt a scream building. She swallowed it down, as she always did. She went to her room and opened the garment bag. Midnight blue silk, cut to skim her curves. Conservative enough for charity, expensive enough to signal wealth. The sapphires were extravagant. A necklace and earrings that probably cost more than her father's entire gallery inventory. She dressed mechanically, applying makeup with the skill of someone who had learned to paint on a mask. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a stranger. Beautiful. Polished. Empty. At precisely 7, she emerged. Dominic was waiting by the elevator, checking his phone. His gaze traveled over her in that assessing way. "You look acceptable," he said. It was the closest thing to a compliment she had ever received from him. The gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum, in the Temple of Dender with its soaring glass walls and ancient stone. One of Celeste's favorite places in the city. But tonight, it felt like another stage. Dominic's hand rested on the small of her back as they entered. A touch that looked intimate but felt like ownership. People turned to look at them. Dominic Ashford and his mysterious new wife. They moved through the crowd, Dominic stopping to speak with investors while Celeste stood beside him, a beautiful silent presence. She had perfected the art of looking engaged while letting her mind drift, cataloging the artworks on the walls. And then she saw him. James Rivera stood across the gallery floor. For a moment, Celeste forgot how to breathe. She had not seen him in 5 years. Not since they had graduated from the School of Visual Arts together. He had been her closest friend during those intense years. The person who understood her obsession with texture and form. Who stayed up until dawn debating the philosophy of functional art. They had lost touch after graduation when he moved to Seattle to apprentice with a master ceramicist. Now he was here. And he was looking directly at her. His face broke into a smile of pure delight. And before she could think, before she could calculate the consequences, she was smiling back. Really smiling. Not the careful, controlled expression she showed the world, but genuine joy. James started moving through the crowd toward them. Panic seized her. She glanced at Dominic, but he was deep in conversation, completely unaware. "Celeste," James said when he reached her. His voice was exactly as she remembered. Warm and slightly rough. "I cannot believe it is you." His eyes took in her dress, the sapphires, the carefully styled hair. "You look amazing. But what are you doing here?" "I live in New York now," she said. Her voice sounded strange. Lighter somehow. "What about you?" "I thought you were in Seattle." "I moved back 6 months ago. I have a studio in Brooklyn. I am actually exhibiting a piece tonight." The museum commissioned a ceramic installation. Pride surged through her. James had always been brilliant. "That is incredible. I would love to see it. Come with me. It is in the American wing." She hesitated. Dominic was still talking, his back partially to her. She should stay. She should remain in position like a good accessory. But James was holding out his hand, and she took it. They slipped away through the crowd. For the first time in 53 days, Celeste felt alive. What she did not see was Dominic turning, his gray eyes tracking her movement across the gallery floor. Watching her smile at another man. Watching her disappear into the corridor. His jaw tightened. His hand curled into a fist. And something cold and dangerous flickered to life behind his eyes. The American wing was quieter, away from the main gala. James led Celeste through arched doorways until they stopped before a glass case. Inside was a sculpture that made her chest tighten. A vessel, abstract yet organic, with surfaces that seemed to breathe. The glaze shifted from deep ocean blue to fractured gold, like something beautiful that had been broken and repaired. "James," she whispered. "This is extraordinary." He studied her face. "You understand it." "Of course I do. It is about fragmentation and healing. About containing something precious even when you are shattered." "I made it after my sister died," he said quietly. "Last year. Car accident." Celeste turned to him, seeing the grief in his eyes. I am so sorry. Clay was the only thing that made sense afterward. Creating something from nothing. Giving form to the formless. He looked at her. You taught me that. Back at SVA. You said art was not about perfection, it was about truth. She had forgotten saying that. Had forgotten the version of herself who believed it. Do you still create? James asked. Yes. The word came out fierce. In a basement storage room. It is the only place I feel real. A storage room? Celeste, what happened to you? You were going to open your own studio. You had grants lined up. And now you are here wearing sapphires and looking like you are drowning. The truth spilled out before she could stop it. I got married. 53 days ago. To Dominic Ashford. James stared at her. The billionaire? The one who was talking to Senator Walsh? Yes. Do you love him? The question hit her like a physical blow. No, she said. I do not even know him. It was arranged. My father's gallery was drowning in debt. Dominic needed a wife who fit his image. I was the solution to both problems. My God, Celeste. I do not need your pity. I made a choice. My family is safe. That is what matters. And what about you? What about what you matter? Before she could answer, a voice cut through the space like a knife. There you are. Dominic stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. But his eyes were ice. I have been looking for you. I was just showing Celeste my piece, James said, extending his hand. James Rivera. I am an old friend from art school. Dominic did not shake his hand. He moved to Celeste's side, his presence overwhelming. Possessive. My wife did not mention she had friends in attendance. The way he said wife made it sound like ownership papers. We lost touch years ago, Celeste said quickly. I did not know James would be here. How fortunate, then. This reunion. Dominic's tone made it clear he found nothing fortunate about it. His hand settled on the small of her back, firm. Claiming. We should return to the gala. The Prescotts want to meet you. It was good to see you, Celeste, James said, his eyes searching hers. Maybe we could get coffee sometime. Catch up properly. That will not be possible, Dominic said before she could respond. My wife's schedule is quite full. He guided her away, his grip tight enough to bruise. They walked in silence through the corridors. Celeste could feel rage radiating off him like heat. When they reached a secluded alcove near the coat check, Dominic spun her to face him. Do you think I am blind? What are you talking about? The way you smiled at him. Like he hung the moon. You have never smiled at me like that. Because you have never given me a reason to. The words hung between them, raw and true. Dominic's jaw tightened. I have given you everything. A home. Security. Your family's salvation. You have given me a cage. And what would he give you? A ceramicist with a studio in Brooklyn? How would that save your father's gallery? How would that keep your mother from losing everything? Maybe it would give me myself back. Something dangerous flashed in Dominic's eyes. He stepped closer, backing her against the wall. She could smell his cologne, feel the heat of him. You are mine, Celeste. You signed the papers. You took my name. You wear my ring. I am not a possession. No? His hand came up, fingers tracing the sapphire necklace at her throat. These are worth more than most people make in a lifetime. This dress. These shoes. The penthouse you live in. Everything you have is because of me. Then take it all back, she whispered. Take everything. See if I care. His eyes searched hers, and for a moment, she saw something crack in his armor. Confusion. Maybe even hurt. You signed a contract, he said, but his voice had lost its edge. 5 years. That was the agreement. I know what I signed. Then honor it. He released her and stepped back, straightening his tie. When he looked at her again, his mask was back in place. Cold. Controlled. We are leaving. Now. They rode back to the penthouse in silence. The tension in the car was suffocating. When they reached the apartment, Celeste went straight to her room. She stripped off the dress and the sapphires, scrubbed the makeup from her face. She pulled on jeans and an old sweater. Then she went to the basement. In her studio, surrounded by clay and half-finished vessels, she finally let herself cry. For the life she had given up. For the woman she used to be. For the impossibility of her situation. She did not hear the door open behind her. So this is where you hide. She spun around. Dominic stood in the doorway, still in his suit, looking completely out of place among the concrete and clay. How did you find this? Thomas told me. I asked where you disappeared to during the day. You had me followed? I had you worried about. He stepped into the room, looking at her works in progress. His expression was unreadable. These are remarkable. What do you want, Dominic? He turned to face her, and she saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. Uncertainty. I want to understand, he said. Why you looked at him the way you did. Why you have never looked at me like that. Because he sees me. You see an asset. I see my wife. You see what you want me to be. You do not know the first thing about who I actually am. Then tell me. The request caught her off guard. What? Tell me, he repeated. Who are you, Celeste Monroe? Beneath the sapphires and the silence. Who are you? She stared at him, this stranger she had married, and made a decision. I am someone who is slowly disappearing. And if something does not change, there will be nothing left of me to save. Dominic stood there, her words hanging between them like smoke. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened. I have to take this call. He left without another word, and Celeste was alone again with her clay and her breaking heart. What she did not know was that the call was from his investigator. And the file he was about to receive would reveal that James Rivera was not just an old friend from art school. He was her first love. And he had just filed for a gallery showing featuring collaborative work with Celeste Monroe from their time at SVA. Work created when they were together. Dominic stared at the photos in the file. Images of Celeste and James, younger, laughing, covered in clay, clearly in love. His hand crushed the phone. He had thought she was just a transaction. A beautiful solution to an image problem. He had not expected her to make him feel like he was losing something he never knew he wanted. For 3 days, Dominic did not come home at all. Celeste told herself she was relieved. But the penthouse felt different without his presence. Emptier somehow, which should have been impossible because it had always been empty. She spent her time in the basement studio, working furiously on a new series. Vessels that grew increasingly fractured, increasingly raw. Thomas brought her coffee and sandwiches, watching her with concerned eyes. On the 4th morning, she received a text from an unknown number. It is James. Got your number from the museum directory. Coffee? No pressure. Just want to make sure you are okay. She stared at the message for 10 minutes. Then typed, tomorrow. 2 p.m., there is a place called Café Moro on West 4th. His response was immediate, I will be there. She should not go. She knew she should not go. She went anyway. James was already there when she arrived, sitting at a corner table. He stood when he saw her, and his smile was warm and uncomplicated. Everything Dominic was not. "You came," he said. "I should not have. But you did." They sat. Ordered coffee. For a moment, neither spoke. "I looked you up," James finally said. "After the gala. The marriage announcement was in all the business sections. Very brief. Very corporate. It did not sound like you. It was not me. It was a transaction. Celeste, if you are in trouble, if you need help getting out of this. I cannot. My father signed papers too. If I break the contract before 5 years, Dominic can demand immediate repayment of everything he invested in the gallery. My family would lose everything." James reached across the table, his hand covering hers. "There has to be a way." The warmth of his touch made her realize how cold she had been. "Tell me about Seattle," she said, changing the subject. "Tell me about your life." He told her. About the apprenticeship. About learning wood-firing techniques. About hiking in the Cascades and finding peace after his sister died. About returning to New York because it was home and he was ready to face it again. She told him about her basement studio. About the vessels she made from her pain. About feeling like she was living in glass cage 30 stories above the world. 2 hours disappeared like minutes. "I should go," she finally said. "If Dominic finds out. Would he hurt you?" "No. Not physically. But he would make things difficult. For me. For you. Let him try." James's eyes were fierce. "You deserve better than this, Celeste. You deserve to be with someone who sees your light, not someone who wants to dim it." "James. I know. I know you are married. I know it is complicated. But seeing you again, it reminded me of something I tried to forget. We were good together. We understood each other. And I let you go without fighting because I was stupid and scared and thought I had time. Now you are married to a man who treats you like property, and I cannot just sit back and do nothing." "What are you saying?" "I am saying I never stopped caring about you. And if there is any part of you that feels the same, we can find a way through this." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Dominic's assistant. "Mr. Ashford requests your presence at the penthouse immediately." Her stomach dropped. "I have to go." She left cash on the table and fled. When she reached the penthouse, Dominic was waiting in the living room. He was not alone. A woman in a severe suit stood beside him, holding a tablet. "Celeste," Dominic said, his voice dangerously calm. "This is Rebecca Chen. Head of my security team." "Rebecca, show her." Rebecca turned the tablet. On the screen were photos. Of Celeste entering Café Moro. Of James holding her hand across the table. Of them talking, laughing. "You had me followed," Celeste said, her voice hollow. "I had you protected." Dominic dismissed Rebecca with a gesture. When they were alone, he turned to face her. "Who is he really?" "I told you. An old friend. Lovers." The word was razor sharp. Celeste said nothing. "I had him investigated after the gala," Dominic continued. "James Rivera. Graduated SVA with you. You dated for 2 years. Created work together. The collaborative pieces are actually quite famous in certain circles. He left for Seattle and you stayed here. Clean break, or so it seemed. That was 5 years ago. And now he is back. How convenient." Dominic moved closer. "Did you know he would be at the gala?" "No. I swear. But you went to see him anyway. Today. Alone. I needed to talk to someone who understands me." I am your husband. You are a stranger who bought me. Dominic flinched like she had struck him. For a moment, his mask slipped, and she saw raw pain beneath. Is that what you think? That I bought you? Did you not? I married you because I needed a wife. Yes. But I chose you specifically, Celeste. Out of all the options my lawyers presented, I chose you. Why? Because I saw you at your father's gallery 6 months before the deal was made. You were alone, looking at a painting. A Rothko. You stood there for 20 minutes, just seeing it. Really seeing it. And when you finally walked away, there were tears on your face. I asked your father who you were, and he said you were his daughter. The artist who loved too deeply to ever be practical. Celeste stared at him, speechless. I did not buy you, Dominic continued, his voice rough. I chose you. And yes, I am terrible at showing it. I am terrible at most things that do not involve money or buildings. But I did not marry you to make you miserable. Then why are you keeping me in a cage? Because I do not know how to let you out without losing you completely. The confession hung between them, raw and unexpected. Dominic. I grew up with nothing, Celeste. My father died when I was 12. Construction accident. No insurance. My mother cleaned houses until her hands bled. I learned early that nothing is safe. Nothing is permanent. So I built walls. Made rules. Controlled everything I could. He stepped closer, and she could see the vulnerability in his eyes. And then I married you. And you were supposed to be simple. Another asset. Another thing I controlled. But you are not simple. You are stubborn and sad and talented, and you do not fit into any of my boxes. And it terrifies me. What terrifies you? That you will leave. That I will wake up one day and you will be gone, and I will have deserved it because I never learned how to hold something without crushing it. Celeste felt her anger warring with unexpected compassion. You cannot keep me by force, Dominic. I know. He looked away. Which is why I am going to release you from the contract. Shock jolted through her. What? I will dissolve the marriage. No penalties for your father. The investments in the gallery will stand. You will be free to go back to your artist. To the life you should have had. Why would you do that? Because you were right. You are not a possession. And I would rather lose you with your freedom intact than keep you in a cage. He pulled a folder from the table and held it out. Inside were legal documents. Divorce papers. Already signed by him. You can walk away, Celeste. Right now. No consequences. Just take these to your lawyer and it is done. She stared at the papers, then at Dominic. He looked like a man bracing for execution. There is one condition, he said quietly. Of course there is. Give me 2 weeks. Before you sign. 2 weeks where you let me try to be a real husband. Let me show you who I could be if I stopped being afraid. If it does not work, if you still want to leave, the papers are yours. No questions asked. And if I say no? If I just take the papers now? Pain flashed across his face. Then I will survive it. Like I have survived everything else. Celeste held the folder, feeling its weight. Freedom was in her hands. She could walk out right now. Find James. Start over. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the vulnerability in Dominic's eyes. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the smallest, most fragile possibility that there was something real beneath his walls. 2 weeks, she heard herself say. Relief flooded his face. 2 weeks. But I need honesty, Dominic. Real honesty. No more masks. No more games. I can try. And I need freedom to move. To work. To breathe. You will have it. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she did not, his hand cupped her face. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Thank you, he whispered. And for the first time since their wedding, Celeste felt like she was looking at a man, not a monument. What she did not know was that James had followed her home from the cafe. And he had seen everything through the penthouse windows. His hands clenched into fists as he watched Dominic touch her face. Watched her let him. James pulled out his phone and made a call. It is me. I need that information we discussed. About Dominic Ashford's business dealings. The offshore accounts. The questionable real estate acquisitions. All of it. A pause. Because I am going to burn his empire to the ground. And when Celeste sees what kind of man she really married, she will have no choice but to leave him. He hung up and stared at the tower above him, his expression cold. If Dominic Ashford wanted a war, he would get one. The first week changed everything. Dominic stopped leaving before dawn. He started having breakfast with her on the terrace, the city spreading below them. He asked about her work. Actually listened when she answered. He came to her basement studio and watched her throw clay, never interrupting, just present. He asked questions about her process, about what she felt when she created. It is like meditation, she told him, hands shaping a vessel. The world disappears. There is only the form emerging under my fingers. Show me, he said. She hesitated, then guided his hands to the clay. Taught him the pressure, the movement. His hands were larger than hers, powerful, but he was surprisingly gentle. They worked together, creating something neither could have made alone. When they finished, both covered in clay. Dominic looked at the misshapen bowl and smiled. Really smiled. Not the sharp, calculated expression he wore for the world. Something genuine. It is terrible, he said. It is honest. I like honesty. Their eyes met, and Celeste felt something shift. A crack in the wall between them. That night, they had dinner together in the penthouse. Dominic cooked, which surprised her. My mother taught me, he explained, plating pasta with practiced ease. She said a man who cannot feed himself is half a man. You never talk about her. She died 3 years ago. Heart attack. I was in Tokyo closing a deal. I did not make it back in time. The pain in his voice was raw. I am sorry. I bought her a house in the Hamptons before she died. Big garden. Ocean view. She visited it twice. Told me it was too big. Too quiet. She missed her apartment in Queens where she could hear the neighbors fighting and smell Mr. Chen's cooking from next door. She wanted connection, not isolation. Yes. He looked at Celeste. I think maybe I built her a cage too. Just a prettier one. They talked until midnight. Really talked. About his childhood, about her dreams, about the strange circumstance that had brought them together. By the end of the first week, Celeste caught herself watching for him. Listening for his footsteps. Missing him when he was gone. It terrified her. On the 8th day, James sent a text, need to talk. Urgent. Café Moro. Tonight. Celeste showed the message to Dominic. It was part of their honesty pact. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Go. But take the car. And Rebecca will be nearby. You trust me? I am learning to. At the cafe, James looked different. Harder. There was an intensity in his eyes that made her uneasy. Celeste, he said before she even sat down. I need you to see something. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents. Financial records. Property acquisition reports. Legal complaints. What is this? The truth about your husband. Dominic Ashford is not the self-made hero the press thinks he is. Look at these properties. He bought them at auctions after engineering the previous owner's bankruptcies. Look at these offshore accounts. Money laundering. Tax evasion. Celeste felt cold. Where did you get these? I have connections. Investigators. People who know how to look beneath the surface. You had my husband investigated? Someone had to protect you. Celeste, the man you are living with built his empire on other people's suffering. He crushed families to make his fortune. And now he is crushing you. That is not true. He is trying. We are trying. James grabbed her hand, urgent. He is manipulating you. Can you not see that? This 2-week trial period. It is just another form of control. He is making you think he can change, but men like him never change. You do not know him. I know his type. Wealthy. Powerful. Entitled. He saw something he wanted and he bought it. You. James, stop. I love you, Celeste. I never stopped. And I am not going to sit back and watch him destroy you. I am going to take these documents to the press. To the authorities. I am going to tear down his empire, and when it falls, you will finally see him for what he is. Celeste pulled her hand back, horror rising. You are blackmailing him. I am saving you. By ruining him? James, there are thousands of people who work for Ashford Enterprises. Pension funds that invest in his projects. Charities he supports. If you destroy him, you destroy all of that. Collateral damage. Sometimes necessary for the greater good. She stood, shaking. I thought you were my friend. I am. I am the only one who actually cares about you. No. You care about winning. You care about being the hero. But this is not heroic, James. This is revenge disguised as rescue. Celeste. Do not contact me again. She left, her heart pounding. Rebecca was waiting by the car. Take me home, Celeste said. Dominic was in his study when she burst in. He looked up, immediately alert. What happened? She threw the folder on his desk. James is planning to destroy you. He has investigators. Documents. He is going to the press. Dominic opened the folder, his expression darkening as he read. Then he looked at her, something sharp and dangerous in his eyes. And you came to warn me. Of course I did. Why? Because despite everything, despite how we started, you have been honest with me. You have tried. And I will not let him destroy you. Dominic stood and came around the desk. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Thank you, he whispered into her hair. For a moment, they just held each other. Then Dominic's phone rang. He answered, his expression growing grim. When? How bad? He hung up, his face pale. What is it? Your father. He has been in an accident. Car crash on the FDR Drive. They took him to Mount Sinai. Celeste's world tilted. Is he alive? Yes. But it is serious. We need to go now. They raced to the hospital, Dominic holding her hand the entire way. Her mother was in the waiting room, face streaked with tears. Mom. Celeste. Oh God, Celeste. They held each other while Dominic spoke to the doctors. When he returned, his face was grave. He is in surgery. Multiple internal injuries. They are doing everything they can. Hours passed. Celeste paced. Prayed. Dominic sat beside her mother, speaking quietly, offering comfort. Finally, a doctor emerged. He is stable. Critical but stable. The next 48 hours will tell us more. Relief flooded through her, leaving her weak. Dominic caught her as she swayed. I have you, he murmured. That night, after her mother finally agreed to rest in a visitor's room, Celeste and Dominic sat in the chapel. I cannot lose him, she whispered. He is not perfect, but he is my father. You will not lose him. He is strong. Like you? Dominic smiled sadly. I do not know if I am strong. I just know how to survive. Is there a difference? Yes. Survival is about enduring. Strength is about living. You have taught me that. She leaned her head on his shoulder, exhausted. I do not know what I am doing, Dominic. With you. With us. I do not know if this is real or if I am just fooling myself. It is real, he said fiercely. For me, it is real. But how do I trust that? How do I know you will not go back to being the cold stranger who left before dawn? Because I cannot. Because you have changed me. Because the thought of losing you is worse than any business deal I ever closed. She lifted her head to look at him. Dominic. I love you, Celeste. I do not know when it happened. Maybe the first time I saw you crying at that Rothko. Maybe the day you called me out for being a coward. But I love you, and I cannot pretend otherwise anymore. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You are supposed to be simple. A contract. A cage. You are not supposed to make me feel like this. Like what? Like I am falling and flying at the same time. He cupped her face, wiping her tears with his thumbs. Then fall with me. Fly with me. Whatever this is, we will figure it out together. She kissed him. Finally. Desperately. All the weeks of tension and longing pouring out. He kissed her back like she was oxygen, like she was everything. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Celeste knew she had made her choice. Not James. Not the past. This man. This complicated, broken, trying man. But the next morning brought destruction. The story broke everywhere. Front page of the Times. Every business channel. Every blog. Ashford empire built on corruption, exclusive investigation reveals dark secrets. The documents James had shown her were now public. The media was tearing Dominic apart. And in a small cafe in Brooklyn, James watched the news coverage with satisfaction. He had done it. He had destroyed Dominic Ashford. Now Celeste would have no choice but to come back to him. He was wrong. When Celeste saw the news, saw Dominic's face on every screen as reporters shouted questions, she knew exactly who to blame. And she knew that some betrayals cannot be forgiven. The penthouse became a war room. Lawyers filled the living room. Publicists crafted statements. Dominic's team worked around the clock to control the damage. Through it all, Dominic remained eerily calm, a general marshalling his troops. Celeste watched him from the terrace, her father's condition improving but still critical. Everything was falling apart at once. Mrs. Ashford, Rebecca approached quietly. There is someone at the service entrance. James Rivera. He is insisting he needs to speak with you. Rage flared, white-hot and pure. Send him up. Rebecca looked uncertain. Are you sure? Yes. 5 minutes later, James stood in the penthouse, looking small and out of place among the chaos. Celeste, he started. I know you are angry, but you have to understand. I did this for you. He was manipulating you. Now you can see the truth about who he really is. The truth? Her voice was cold. You want to talk about truth? Here is the truth, James. Those documents you leaked? Half of them are out of context. The bankruptcies? Companies that were already failing. Dominic bought the properties at auction to save the jobs. The offshore accounts? Legal tax structures that every major corporation uses. You did not expose corruption. You weaponized complexity to destroy a man because you wanted me back. James paled. That is not true. Is it not? You said you loved me. But love does not burn down someone's life to prove a point. You did not save me, James. You tried to control me by eliminating my choices. I gave you freedom. No. You gave me destruction and called it liberation. Do you know what you have done? Pension funds that invested in Ashford projects are panicking. Thousands of employees do not know if they will have jobs next week. Charities that depended on his foundation funding are scrambling. You did not hurt Dominic. You hurt everyone connected to him. He deserves it. Maybe. Maybe not. But they do not. All those people whose lives you just upended. They do not deserve to be collateral damage in your crusade. Dominic appeared in the doorway, his presence commanding. You should leave, Rivera. Before I have you arrested for corporate espionage. You cannot touch me. I am a journalist source. No. You are a thief who illegally obtained confidential documents and used them to damage a publicly traded company. Trust me, I can touch you. And I will. But right now, I am giving you one chance to walk away. Take it. James looked at Celeste, desperate. Come with me. Please. We could still have what we had before. We never had anything real, Celeste said quietly. We had potential. Possibility. But it stayed a dream because neither of us was brave enough to fight for it when it mattered. And now too much has happened. You became someone I do not recognize. Someone willing to destroy to possess. That is not love, James. That is obsession. So you are choosing him? The man who bought you? I am choosing myself. And the man I choose to be with is the one who gave me divorce papers and told me I was free to leave. The one who asked for a chance, not demanded it. The one who is trying, James. Really trying. Not to own me, but to know me. James stared at her, then at Dominic. His expression crumbled. I thought I was saving you, he whispered. I did not need saving. I needed support. There is a difference. He left without another word. When the door closed, Celeste sagged against Dominic. It is not over, he said quietly. The damage is real. I am going to lose some properties. Some partnerships. But we will survive it. We? He turned her to face him. I meant what I said, Celeste. I love you. And I am not walking away from you. Not ever. Unless you want me to. The 2 weeks are not up yet. I know. But I already know my answer. His breath caught. Do you? I tore up the divorce papers. Last night. While you were in meetings. I threw them in the fireplace and watched them burn. Celeste. I love you, Dominic. I do not know when it happened either. Maybe when you showed me your mother's empty house. Maybe when you got clay on your expensive suit and laughed about it. Maybe when you held my hand in the hospital and promised me my father would survive. But I love you. And I am staying. Not because of a contract. Not because my family needs you. But because I choose you. He kissed her with everything he had, and she kissed him back just as fiercely. When they broke apart, both were crying. I am going to mess this up, he warned. I am going to work too much and forget to communicate and probably build walls again. And I am going to push you. Challenge you. Refuse to be decoration. Probably make you crazy. Good. I want crazy. I want real. Then you have me. All of me. The broken parts. The scared parts. The angry parts. All of it. I will take it. All of it. And I will give you all of me. The damaged parts. The parts that do not know how to love right. Everything. 3 months later, the scandal had faded. Dominic had weathered the storm, restructuring some partnerships, doubling down on transparency. His reputation took a hit, but survived. More importantly, he changed. The penthouse was different now. Celeste's pottery filled the shelves. Her clay often stained the Italian marble. They still had separate bedrooms, but most nights, they fell asleep in the same bed, tangled together. Dominic learned to leave work at reasonable hours. To ask about her day. To sit in her basement studio and just be present. He was still ruthless in business, but he learned to be soft with her. To respect her boundaries. To see her as a partner, not a possession. Celeste opened a studio in Tribeca with Dominic's support, but not his money. She used her own work, her own name. She taught classes. Exhibited pieces. Built a reputation separate from being Mrs. Ashford. On their 6-month anniversary, Dominic took her to the Temple of Dender. The museum was closed, but he had arranged a private visit. They stood where she had first seen James, where everything had started to crack open. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "All of it? The pain to get here?" She thought about the question. About the cage she had lived in. About the freedom she had found. About the love that had grown in the cracks. "No," she said. "I do not regret it. Because it brought me here. To this. To us. I have something for you." He pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring. Not the ostentatious diamond she had buried in a drawer. This was simple. A band of hammered platinum with a single small stone. "It was my grandmother's," he said. "The only thing my mother kept when they lost everything. She wore it every day. Said it reminded her that value is not about size or cost. It is about meaning." Celeste looked at the ring, then at him, tears streaming. "Will you marry me again?" he asked. "Not in a contract. Not in my father's study. But here. In front of people who matter. Because you want to. Because I want to. Because we choose each other." "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, next to the platinum band. It fit perfectly. They married again 3 months later. A small ceremony in her father's gallery, surrounded by art and people who loved them. Not a transaction this time. A celebration. When Dominic kissed her, making her officially his wife for the second time, Celeste felt something she had never felt in the penthouse. Home. They had started as strangers forced together by circumstance. They had become enemies trapped in a cage of their own making. And then, through pain and choice and stubborn determination, they had become something neither expected. Partners. Lovers. Friends. The kind of love that is not perfect or easy or simple. But real. Built from broken pieces. Fired in the kiln of crisis. Stronger for having survived. Years later, when people asked Celeste about her marriage, she never told them it was arranged. She said it was complicated. Messy. Hard one. And absolutely worth it. She never saw James again. She heard he moved back to Seattle. Found success. Maybe even found peace. She hoped he had. But her peace was here. In the arms of a man who had learned to hold without crushing. In a penthouse that was no longer a cage but a home. In a life she had chosen, piece by piece, day by day. Some love stories start with fireworks. Theirs started with signed contracts and separate bedrooms. But it ended with clay-stained hands intertwined, two broken people who learned that sometimes the most beautiful things emerge from the hardest materials. In Celeste's final exhibition, the centerpiece was a vessel unlike anything she had made before. It was crafted from clay but reinforced with platinum wire, organic and industrial fused together. Fragile and strong. Broken and whole. The title card read, "Choosing Freedom." And beside it, in smaller text, "For Dominic, who learned to open the cage." On opening night, Dominic stood beside her, his hand in hers, watching people circle her creation. "You made us," he said quietly. "I made a possibility," she corrected. "We made us. Every day. Every choice. And if I had never given you those papers? If I had kept you locked away? Then I would have left eventually. Or disappeared completely. But you did give them to me. You chose freedom over control. And that made all the difference." He pulled her close, kissing her temple. "Best investment I ever made." She laughed. "I am not an investment. No. You are my partner. My wife. My home. And I am never letting you go." "Good," she said. "Because I am not going anywhere." They stood together in her gallery, surrounded by art born from pain, witnesses to their own transformation. Two people who had been purchased and seller, prisoner and warden, strangers in the same house. Now simply two people who loved each other. Imperfectly. Completely. Finally. The end.